It's May the 1st, 2020, and guess what? It's the start of a new quarter for speaking questions in the IELTS test. I call this the danger zone. This is because there will be a new speaking book of questions. This means that right now there is a strong possibility that if you're taking your test, you're going to have no chance of knowing what the questions are. This is because every quarter in comes a new book. Imagine there's a bunch of books that the examiner uses in your test centre. A new book comes in and one of the old books goes out. This means a lot of the previous questions are still in the test, but there are now some new questions that you don't know about, that I don't know about. So this is why it's the danger zone. You may be getting questions that you're unprepared for. Now, ideally you would book your test so that this would not occur. It's a dangerous time to have your test at the start of May, at the start of September, and at the start of January. You're much better off to book your test for later on so that there's news on social media about what the current questions are. Now, as I said, it is May the 1st. Even I do not know the questions. Even I don't know the new questions for this quarter. Okay, so bye-bye. That's the end of the video. No, wait. I still have some important things that I want to tell you before you go away. What I want to do is to talk about what you can do if you do meet an unexpected question in your IELTS speaking test. Now, this is particularly true if you're taking your test in the danger zone, but even you're taking your test outside the so-called danger zone, there's still a risk, and here's why. Look, let's be honest, we don't ever know all the questions that are in the IELTS test. Even the examiners don't know. Why? Because there's a bunch of books and no one has access to all of these books. Moreover, yes, there are questions out on social media. What I mean is there are lists of current questions, but it's not all the questions. So one of the things you should do to be prepared for your speaking test is to not only look at the current questions, but also to be prepared for the unexpected. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about what you can do to be prepared for the unexpected. And then as soon as I do find out some more about questions or new questions for this quarter, I'm going to be releasing more videos. Another thing that's really important too is that you realize that the very first set of topics to start your test are basically always the same. It doesn't matter what quarter of the year we're in or when we come into a new quarter, the same three topics are used to start your test. So one of the things that you should prepare for is these three topics. And these topics are basically your work or study, your home, the apartment or house that you live in, and third, your hometown or the area that you're living in now. These are always used to start your test, and to get off to a good start, I suggest you prepare for these three topics. If you want some help with this, I have a video dedicated to this. I'll put the link below. And some of you probably know I have some past questions and model answers on my website. I'll give you a link to that as well because I have model answers for these questions there. Most of the rest of this video is going to focus on how you can deal with new questions and how you can deal with questions that you haven't pre-prepared for. Alright, so my key suggestion about dealing with the unexpected, dealing with perhaps a topic that you haven't prepared for before, is to be prepared for certain types of questions. So what I'm talking about here is in part one of the test, we can predict certain types of questions, and if you're prepared for these different question types, you'll be able to deal with new topics that you haven't prepared for. So let me give you an example. In part 1 of the test, we have questions about liking. What sort of things do you like? What sort of food do you like? What sort of food did you like when you were a child? We have disliking questions. Are there any kinds of food that you don't like? And then we have some other common types of questions, that, like when you were a child, what sort of food did you like when you were a child? We've got questions about the future. What sort of food would you like to try in the future? Note how many questions there are about likes and dislikes. So these in particular should be prepared for part 1 of the test. And if you're prepared to talk about liking, disliking in the past, in the future, then you're going to be pretty well prepared for part 1 of the test. Now, I've got a video dealing with this issue. I'll put the link below. You want to have a look at this video. Now, part 2 of the test, I also have a video, and what I do in this video is I go over the 5 key themes of questions that we have in part 2 of the test. People, places, things, activities, experiences. So it doesn't matter what the actual question that you get, you're always asked to describe something, describe an unusual person you met or whatever. As long as you're prepared to describe people, places, things, activities and experiences, you should be relatively well prepared for any type of question that you get in your test. So it doesn't matter if you get a question that you haven't seen before, that you haven't prepared before, if you are prepared to talk about these 5 different themes in your speaking test. So you want to check out that video for sure. Now in terms of part 3 is a bit trickier. Part 3, the examiner can actually make their own questions. They're not required to follow the script in the speaking book that they're given. So this is a particular area where you must be prepared for the unexpected, where you must be prepared for questions that you haven't seen before, that you haven't prepared before, because these questions are not all written down for you. So this is where this technique that I'm talking about of being prepared for unexpected questions is extremely important. And we can follow kind of the same principle that we did in part 1 of the test, which is to be prepared for different types of questions. So in part 3 of the test, you should be prepared. The very first question is a kind of different types of. So if you were describing an interesting person in part 2 of your test, part 3 would very often start with a question such as what types of people are considered interesting in your country. So we often start part 3 with this different types of question. Or if your question was about describe a place you went to buy something recently, then your part 3 would likely start with something like, what are the different types of places where people can go shopping in your country? Okay, so we've got the types of, we've got questions like advantages of shopping online, disadvantages of shopping online. So you can be prepared for your test even without seeing the actual topics that are going to be asked, by preparing to answer different types of commonly asked questions in your test. A second suggestion to help you prepare is work on some skills and techniques for answering different types of questions. For instance, if you're asked a question like, what sort of food do you like? You can have more than one type of food. I've got a video on this. You could talk about pizzas, burgers and hamburgers rather than just one type of food. Or another technique is you go from general to more specific. You talk about only one type of food, but you start very generally, maybe Italian food, and then you get on to maybe pizza or a specific type of Italian food, and then maybe even give an example of your favorite type of pizza. So that's another way to prepare for your test. The third idea is just look at past questions. Look at past questions. So a lot of these past questions are still in the test, so you might get these questions. Plus, even if you get a new question, it'll be fairly similar to something that's been asked in the past. So the more familiar that you are with the past questions, the easier you're going to find it to deal with a new or unexpected question. Now, I mentioned resources, so here are the resources that I want to suggest that you use to prepare for your test. I've got links to these below in the description. So the first one that I was talking about are the different types of questions that get asked in part 1, 2 and 3, and I've got videos for each part of the test below, so you want to be looking at those. The other thing that I would suggest, I was just mentioning past test questions. Have a look at my my videos for past test questions, or if you'd like to read the past test questions and read model answers, I've got a link to PDF below, 70 pages long, covering past test questions and model answers to those. Now, these past test questions are not that long ago in the past. They are from the first quarter of this year, from January through April, and so I think these questions are almost certainly still in the test. And then also last year's questions. So 70 pages for the PDF. You could read through those, get an idea of the types of questions that get asked, how to answer them, and then these questions are still in the test. A lot of people have this misunderstanding. They think that each quarter all the questions change. This is not the case. It's one new book coming in, one book going out. So a lot of the questions that have been recently in the test from the past quarter, even from last year, they're still in the test. Now, if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below, and do me a favor, if you take a test, let me know at least some of the questions that you got asked in the comments below. This would help me greatly, because what I'm going to be doing now is preparing for my next videos, which are going to be the actual new questions. As these new questions emerge, I'm going to be sharing them with you. I'm going to be making videos of the new questions. I'm going to be updating my website. Make sure you subscribe to me, and make sure that you click on the alerts button so that you will get notifications of my new videos, so that as these new questions emerge, you get updated about this. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like it so that will help this video to rank better and enable people such as yourself to see this video. Please subscribe to me if you'd like to get alerts of my upcoming videos as I produce them and as I upload them. Best of luck with your study in 2020.